in uh, kind of the mechanics of applying for grants through the community foundation, but then also sort of the relational aspects of that, and then finish the presentation part of my time with you by kind of pointing out ways to avoid common mistakes that people or organizations might find themselves running into that create a barrier towards their relationship with us. So again, I'll stay on at the end and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. So the Community Foundation is one of several large grant-making organizations serving the Richmond region. So in our discretionary grant making, we serve Richmond City and then also the surrounding counties and localities from the Tri-Cities area out to Powhatan and Goochland in the west, and then down to Charles City and New Kent in the east, and then Hanover and Henrico. So that is our footprint. And in our discretionary grant making, so that is grant making that is not exclusively driven or under the direct control of a living donor, we prioritize our grant making in these areas. So education, and especially in pre-K and early childhood education, homelessness services and affordable housing, physical and mental health, cultural vibrancy, and there we especially prioritize access to the arts, and then also economic prosperity, and including and especially workforce development. So in our discretionary grant making, those are our strategic priorities. So let's say that your organization, your nonprofit, falls under one of those categories. So then the question is, how do I apply for a grant for my organization to the Community Foundation? Well, the first question is really to determine if your organization falls under one of those categories. And the best way to do that is to take a look at our website. And when I'm done talking to you, I'll throw our website address up in the chat along with my email so that you can look into this further. The best way to do that is to take a look at our list of prior grantees and to see if your organization work matches up with those strategic priorities. And if you're on the fence, or even if you don't align with those priorities, the thing that you should do next is establish a relationship with one of our program officers. So I'm the program officer at the Community Foundation who manages the portfolio of homelessness services organizations and our affordable housing providers. But then we also have program officers for each of those strategic priorities that I outlined a second ago. So our education, our cultural vibrancy, so on and so forth. So reach out to a program officer, establish a relationship with them, steward that relationship in the same way that you would steward a relationship with any individual donor that you're seeking to have a relationship with. And I want to emphasize that is true even if your work doesn't align perfectly with one of those strategic priorities, because the other thing that those program officers can do is to help you make introductions in the community outside of our discretionary grant making process, but then also peer organizations that you might consider collaborating with. So it's really important to think of that program officer as a true partner who is invested in the success and well-being of your organization. So that's kind of the relational aspect of grant funding through the Community Foundation. The other sort of mechanical or procedural way of getting into our ecosystem is through our letter of introduction process. And so at the end of every year, we open up a process through our online grants portal system of a letter of introduction process. And that is a form that you fill out on behalf of your organization that is your organization's formal introduction to the Community Foundation. It gives you the opportunity to share about your work and your governance, and to give us an update about how things are going on with your organization. And on the website that I'll put up in the chat, when I'm done, it will take you to a video presentation done at the end of the fall last year about that letter of introduction process. Again, also happy to have you reach out to me for shepherding that. So there's the relational aspect, and then there's also the kind of mechanical or procedural aspect. I want to finish my time with you because I know you want to hear from the other panelists as well, by just helping you understand some of the common mistakes that we find people making that set up barriers to receiving funding. Don't let the application that you submit to us be the first time that we've ever heard of you or from you. It's really important to reach out to that program officer and establish that relationship and share with that program officer on an ongoing basis the joys and concerns that your organization is experiencing. That relationship is really important because all of us on that team, because we are invested in stewarding your time well and respecting the time that you have, all of us will shoot you really straight about the likelihood of your organization being funded through us. But we can also use that relationship that you share with us to advocate on your organization's behalf with the variety of stakeholders that we come into contact with. So if that's donors within our donor advised fund, which could be a whole nother presentation, or with other stakeholders that we have internally and externally, we can advocate on your organization's work with those stakeholders, even if it doesn't fit neatly within those strategic priorities. And to do that, frankly, and I guess this is sort of the next hiccup that people run into, is really be honest about if your work fits into the priorities of a particular funder. So not just us, but other foundations. And here, I really want to sincerely encourage you not to chase grant funding by changing your mission or its work. Really be true and faithful to your organization's mission, and then find the funder who aligns most clearly with that. And one resource I can give you in your search there is Foundation Center. It's a database that is a nationwide database that shows funders that you can search by interest area, by geography, by population served. It is a small monthly subscription cost, or is available through the local libraries, Foundation Center. And then the last thing, because I know my colleague and friend Myra is here, and I'll tell you why I'm mentioning her in a sec, is you really have to make sure that your business operations are up to snuff. And we are really lucky in Richmond to be blessed with a variety of capacity building organizations who can help your nonprofits business acumen match the excellence of your programming. And I'm really lucky, and we're all really lucky that Myra's on, because the organization that she heads, LMR, is a really key player in this space of capacity building for nonprofits. And we'll tell you more about that at the end of tonight's work. And so, again, I'm grateful and happy for the invitation to spend the time with you. I look forward to the questions that you have for me, and I especially look forward to meeting you outside of this meeting and establishing a relationship with you if I don't already, and making introductions among my team for you. So, Kristen, happy to take questions at the end.
Thank you so much, Scott.
You're
I'm
welcome.
going to encourage you you're getting such good information. Write these down. Write your questions down so you don't forget, because we don't know how much time we'll have all these experts together. So definitely write that down. And Scott, great point about being relationally oriented and making sure people know who you are and know the wonderful work you're doing.
Absolutely.
And love the piece on mission drift and just making sure you're staying true to your mission when applying for funding. It makes everyone's life easier. You don't have to change your programming and your proposal to fit the organization, and the organization doesn't have that awkward moment of having to tell you no, this isn't in alignment. So you work a lot better when you find people that are really passionate and excited about the work you're doing. So it's money out there. It's just being in alignment with the right folks. So speaking of additional resources and just different funding sources, I'm happy to introduce Mark Johnson from the Truist Foundation to share a little bit about the grants available through the Truist Foundation, and hopefully just providing some insight on what corporate philanthropy, how that can support your work as well. So Mark, I will pass it to you.
Hi, hello, this is Mark. Can you guys hear me pretty good?
We can.
Hello? Yes, we can hear you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me on. Mark Johnson, Community Development Manager for the Commonwealth of Virginia for Truist. And for those of you probably who didn't know the origin of that is a merger between Heritage SunTrust and BB&T Bank back on December 7th of 2019. And so on an annual basis, we provide over, I would say, $1.2, $1.3 million to nonprofit organizations within the Commonwealth of Virginia. That's through our Truist Foundation. Our Truist Foundation, from a corporate perspective, provides funding throughout our footprint to nonprofit organizations from Texas through Maryland. On two fronts, you have the foundation, and then you have what we call our community development funding. That funding is alignment with our accountability to the our regulatory entity, which is the FDIC. From a Truist Foundation perspective, we have two focus areas. One focus area is economic mobility. The other focus area is small business access to capital. With economic mobility, the focus is on frontline workers, reskilling, upskilling, presenting them with opportunities to kind of hone and develop their skills so that they could apply for jobs in, emerging industries, et cetera. With small business access to capital is working with nonprofit organizations that provide technical assistance, capacity building. As an example, we've partnered with MBL for a number of years to provide technical assistance and capacity building to minority business enterprises, small businesses. Our focus in that area are small businesses that have revenues of under $1 million on an annual basis, and those that are located in low to moderate income communities, and that provide opportunities for low to moderate income individuals. And so to that degree, there are opportunities for organizations in that area on the foundation side, where the deadline is March 31st, July 31st, and November 30th, but those funds aren't dispersed until the springtime of the next year. On the community development side, which is an ongoing funding process with grants averaging from $5,000 to $15,000 to $20,000, those particular focuses is on nonprofit organizations that provide programming in the area of affordable housing, workforce development, essential community services, which are to address food insecurity, healthcare, childcare, small business access to capital, and workforce development. And so within those particular areas on February through where we're is with an opportunity to apply, and all particular investment basically is an opportunity for us to partner with them with teammates through providing financial education, first-time home buyers training, anything that kind of aligns with expertise that our teammates have in any particular line of business within the bank to help individuals understand how to how to save and how to invest their dollars better, how to prepare themselves to purchase a house, and then also opportunity just to understand their money better. So there's a number of ways to partner with us in terms of funding, but there's also a number of ways to kind of enhance that by getting us involved in providing consultation and financial education to the clients that, as well as their organization staff. So I want.
Mark, if you're still talking, we can't hear you. Well, Mark, we can't hear you, but from what I did hear, it was some good information. And if you're driving, we don't want you to text or anything like that. So if Erica or Floyd would be willing to share your contact information in the chat box so people can get anything that's missed. Are you back with us now?
Yes, I am. I'm not driving, actually. I'm in the passenger side.
Oh, okay.
So if anybody has any questions, they can hopefully put something in the chat box and I can be able to hopefully respond.
Okay, and it sounds like you're a little clearer now. So if
okay.
you had more to add, we're listening.
Excellent. So if there's any funding opportunities, any question about how to access funding from Truist or how to access information about funding from Truist, I can also provide that as well. There may be some organizations on that already have a relationship with us. I think, part of the best relationships is just kind of learning what the opportunities are, what the focus areas of the funding are as well, because I think the more you know about the funder, the better you can align what the focus area for the funders are with a particular opportunity to receive funding for a particular initiative or indoor program.
Wonderful.
Were you? Did I come through clear?
Yes.
Excellent.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Mark, for that insight. And if you could provide your contact information in the chat, it's already being requested. You have emails already drafted, ready to send to you. So if you could put your contact information, that would be wonderful. And I think Mark just spoke to something similar to what Scott said, is really understanding the organizations from whom you want funding and what are they interested in supporting, as well as just making sure you have those relationships. So the people with the money are here. So, and their email addresses are in the chat box. So if you are interested in learning more about the resources they just spoke of, or how they can connect you maybe with other more missionally aligned funding sources, please don't hesitate to reach out. All right. Well, thank you so much, Mark, for that. And hopefully you can stay around for a bit for our Q&A at the end. But if not, we'll make sure folks follow up with you via email.
Excellent. No, I was gonna say no problem. I'm actually on the phone. So if it's possible, you can put my contact information in the chat. It's mark.a.johnson@truist.com.
All right. Thank you, Derica.
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next, we have Antonio Miller, who will be representing People's Advantage Credit Union, and they have some great announcements about new loans available for small businesses. I know oftentimes we don't think of our nonprofits as small businesses, but they are. So it's really important to not just take the nonprofit funding, but what are some of the funding resources available to you as minority owned businesses? So Antonio, I will pass it to you.
Thank you, Kristen. Good evening, everyone. So essentially what we're doing at People's Advantage Federal Credit Union is we're trying to create an on-ramp for those who traditionally are outside of access to financial capital. And what we're doing is we're looking at different ways to expand the parameters of getting funding. So a lot of the times it's the credit score or it's the lack of collateral that prevents a small business from accessing capital. And so we are looking at ways to kind of look past that, but also give those businesses a chance to build business credit and also bank at an affordable rate. But not only that, so our mission, we dub it Finance 360. So for a business owner, we're not just looking to give you capital for your business, although that is something we want to do, but we're armed and equipped to also look at the business owner's personal side and make sure they're in the best space possible as well, right? So if I was to get a business owner to approach me for capital, and for whatever reason, I absolutely have to say no because, you know, their personal guarantee in the loan or whatever the case may be, instead of sending them out the door, there's never a hard no. There's always a pivot. And wherever you're at in your entrepreneurship journey, you know, we're trying to get you to that next step. So we would do a free credit counseling or a free credit analysis and work on getting you to a point where you can personally guarantee a loan if you don't have collateral, and then move you forward from there. Also, because this is a call mainly geared toward nonprofits, one of the things I looked at when building this program is how could we serve the nonprofit community? And I heard it earlier that nonprofits are also businesses as well. So what we look to do is we want to allow them to build nonprofit, build business credit as nonprofits as well. And so I look at, when I'm looking at loans, if I'm dealing with a nonprofit, the money that you fundraise or bootstrap, if your paperwork is in order and we can look at that over a set period of time, I would treat that as revenue and allow you to have a line of credit or take out a small loan to cover whatever the need is. And then we would turn around and report your payments and that activity to the business credit bureaus, Experian, Equifax, Dun & Bradstreet, so that you can build that small business credit for your organization. So we also look to add integrations to our products as we go throughout the year. In full transparency, we are in the infancy stages. We've been launched about 24 days now, and today was the first day we actually booked their commercial loan. But we are not only adding products as we go throughout the year, but I'm taking feedback, right? So as business owners on the call and anybody that's willing to reach out, you know, let me know what exactly is that your business is lacking in the financial realm. And then let me go to bat for it as we continue to build out our program, because it's not finally formed yet. We are deploying capital because that's our number one priority, to get money into the underserved communities. But, you know, our operations, so to speak, and the products that we offer are still very much up for negotiation. And so instead of building a product that could only fit some, you know, I would love the feedback to make sure that we're all inclusive for everybody. But outside of that, of course, I spoke about the commercial products, but what we also do is we're trying to make sure that the business owner is taken care of personally as well. So in the event that you are not in the best shape financially on a personal side, you know, we encourage you to look at both of those. And like I said, we offer those services for free for you to be able to take a step forward. So we don't want you running a great nonprofit, serving your community and, going above and beyond and going home suffering for a lack of or not having things, right? So while we have the capacity, the bandwidth, and the team to do so, because everything comes in seasons in life, of course, I think we should take advantage of it. Of course, our charter is a federal charter. It's as far west as Cumberland, far north is Goochland, far east is King and Queen, far south is Sussex, about 22 localities. And then there's some other ways that you can be a part of our credit union. But we pretty much serve the Richmond MSA. And, we welcome you to try any financial institution that'll give you a shot, because that's what it is about, having a shot at finances. Shop. But, if you don't find something that works for you or a door that you can get open, our door is open for you. We'll take a shot on you if we can. And if we can't, then we'll get you to a point where we can.
Thank you, Antonio. That was really, really great insight. And I feel like that's not something you hear often from financial services institutions saying, no, but let's create a plan to get to yes. I think that's really meaningful. And just thank you for the work you're doing to make sure we're closing those gaps. Poverty among people working in nonprofit is like truly a thing. And we don't have to be martyrs. We can be good stewards of our money, good stewards of our time, talents, and treasures. And this is just one resource enabling us to do that. So, Antonio, your contact information is being requested. If you can include that in the chat, that would be wonderful. And you'll see there are 3 financial services institutions here on this call. I think that one speaks to just the true commitment to the uplifting of our nonprofit communities. There's no competition. Everyone has a specialty. So go to Truist Foundation for your major grants. Come to Thrivent if you want some grassroots on the ground service projects and things of that nature. And then we just have Antonio and his organization, People's Advantage Credit Union, that can help you walk through that loan process and get you to a place that you're able to be financially sustainable as well as your company. So all the resources are here, and I'm just so excited. I'm so excited. So we are transitioning kind of back to our nonprofit side with Ms. Myra Smith representing LMR. And she's going to share about the importance of selecting the right board members. And then I'll have the privilege of announcing our winner for this year's Volunteer of the Year Award. So thank you, Myra, for joining us. This is our 2nd year doing this together. So thank you for your insight and partnership, and we're excited to see what you'll share.
Thank you, dear. Thank you. Thank you, Thrivent. Thank you so much. Thank you, MBL, for the invitation to join everyone. Please excuse my raspy voice. Probably half the folks on the screen will understand that this pollen is just driving all of us crazy. So my voice doesn't always sound like this. For those of you who don't know Leadership Metro Richmond, we're our region's community leadership development and engagement organization for our region. And we pretty much serve the greater Richmond community and the outlying counties. I want to talk a little bit about that engagement part that we spoke of. We do our leadership programs through our Quest programs and others, and we've had over almost 2,000 individuals going through our programs for the past 42 years. But I want to talk about the engagement part, because one thing we found is that probably 70% of the folks who go through our community leadership programs go to serve on nonprofit boards. And so we already have, every year, we have a new group of 70 individuals ready to and prepared to go out and serve. One thing I will say is that for the nonprofit community, practical, informed, diverse, and strategic boards are critical for the success and sustainability of nonprofits. Critical to success. Boards are different types of boards. There are fundraising boards, there are governance boards, there are advisory boards. And so I think one key thing is that when you're recruiting someone and looking to serve on your board, let's be clear about what those roles and responsibilities are. Those roles and responsibilities should be written, and they should have the time commitment on them. so that people can see and to have something to walk away and take away with them to see what that experience could be. One thing I want to talk about in recruitment is financial commitments. There are a number of boards who say that to serve on this board, you need to bring in and you need to give X amount of dollars. From a personal stance, I don't care for that much. I think it's a barrier to serve. I think that one thing about boards, and we always look for, and I know a lot of people look for CEOs and C-suite individuals, but nonprofit boards need life experiences there, life experiences. And so also need individuals from the constituents. And oftentimes those individuals cannot bring in thousands of dollars to serve on boards. So that sometimes is a barrier to having a diverse board with people with different life experiences. That's that passion that you bring to the table. And those things are priceless. Often it's said that nationally, one of the most difficult things for boards to do is to recruit. I suggest that we need to use our network links and ask others for referrals that extend beyond your board, your individual networks. Oftentimes individuals ask, why are boards not diverse? And we know that through research, we know that through local research and national research. And that one key reason is that boards recruit from within. If you have a homogeneous board, if they recruit within, most of our hubs, most of our pods, our groups of networks, they're very much like us. And so we're still recruiting from within, you're still bringing in that non-diversity. And when I talk about diversity, I'm not talking about diversity that you see, those skill sets, those passions, the life experiences, all of those things that your board needs to be at your board table. We really need to think about that when it comes to recruitment. Write a recruitment plan. Nothing wrong with writing down things. Run a diversity audit. What type of individuals do you have on your board? What's missing? And when I say what's missing, look at your constituents, look at your organization's strategic direction. What are your challenges and what voices need to be at your board table? That's key. And I'll give you an example. LMR is about to go through our revamping or really looking at our program that we've had for 42 years. And it's something that the board's going to help us with. For me, his key as a CEO, is there someone on the board with adult education experience? It is a challenge for us. So, and we do have someone on the board that has that experience that can help us in that area. So really look at where you are strategically, where you are in your life stage of your organization. Because a lot of organizations, just like businesses, you have startups, and oftentimes startups, volunteers, boards are really hands-on. They're really into the work that oftentimes a lot of organizations use for their staff. But a startup organization may be more hands-on. As an organization matures, it may be less hands-on and more governance when it comes to, or maybe even more advisory when it comes to the life stage of a nonprofit. And understanding those life stages will be key when you're recruiting individuals. Some people may think they're going to come onto the board and they're going to get in all into the mix, but that's not the kind of board it is. And so I think that clarity needs to be there. The clarity needs to be there. So I talked about why boards don't have diversity. But if you want and you need a diverse board, there's some things to think about. Number one, address what lies beneath the surface. The unconscious bias that does exist. Really look at your board, and can your board address what's beneath? Why are we not diverse? And understand the importance of diversity. It is more than just a picture. I tell people that all the time. Get everyone involved when we talk about diversity. Be proactive. Make diversity a part of the mission of the organization, not just a tagline or your mission statement. If you truly say what you are, then you have to do it. You have to see it in actions. Ask other people about, once again, do you know someone who maybe be interested in this, or someone who has a passion for that? Or for me, health organizations. I was the board chair of the National Kidney Foundation. Why? They came to me because my mother had a kidney transplant. They hit a passion that I had. And so I think that's when we're recruiting, we need to really look deep and what we're looking for our boards. Once we get diversity, we have to make sure that we have an environment that's ready for it. An environment that's inclusive, that all voices are heard, that there's transparency. It's nothing like being diverse and bringing in diverse individuals, different backgrounds and skills, and having them come and not being heard. So that their voices need to be heard when it comes to strategic, to come to bringing on diversity to the board. It is amazing. I have probably one of the most diverse, actually not board, but the board that I work for has probably, I have the most diverse board I've ever seen. Our board looks like our constituents. And that's the way it really should be. And so that diversity brings in great innovation and creativity, and they're really thinking from all different directions, but you have to manage that diversity when you have diversity on your board. One thing that LMR does, and we help organizations help connect to prospective board members, and we do that a couple of ways. We have a board concierge service where you can go onto our website, www.lmronline.org, and I'll put that in the chat once we finish. You can go on as a nonprofit and say, we're looking for individuals with these different skill sets or these different diversities. And we were looking to our graduate pool and others from the community who will say, we want to serve on a board. We will look and connect individuals. We can't put people on boards, but we connect individuals to nonprofits. Something individuals who are looking for nonprofit board service can go to the concierge service. We have a staff member named Gina who will work and call you back and have a conversation with you about the type of board you want to serve on. We have been quite successful that way. And so we can continue to do that work. We also have a board connector. It's almost like an exhibit hall event where we bring in about 40 nonprofits, and we just invite in very diverse nonprofits. We invite individuals to come in and just talk with them and just learn more about those nonprofits and make those connections to board service. And so that's one thing that we do. I know that, and I want to thank Scott for his comments about LMR. I have the opportunity of chairing a board of one of the foundations at the community foundation. So Scott was just spot on for all the things he said. One thing I do want to add, I want to add that GuideStar. If you're a nonprofit and you're not in GuideStar and you're not a Gold Star member, it's time to get busy. Because funders, and I think Scott will tell you that the community foundation only wants to talk to nonprofits that have Gold Stars. And Gold Stars is not amazing, it's not a hard thing to do. You just go in and fill in your finance information, your board information, all that information you put in your 990s, and so you're Gold Star. And so that's key for funders today. That's key for the Jenkins Foundations and the Community Foundation and others to be in GuideStar. That is key. One last point I want to make is when it comes to finding board members, we all have Facebook pages. We all have LinkedIns. Who likes you? Who is connected to you? Who's following you? If someone took the time to check you out and click on they're following you, you need to check out who those individuals are. There could be some future board members in that group. And that's just another way of looking. The last point I want to make, and then I'm going to stop talking, is that keeping board members, once you get them, keeping them engaged. Board meetings should not be like Groundhog Day. March looks like April, and April looks like May. You can't hold people like that. Board meetings need to be logistically set at the right time so that people can be there. Strategic conversations. Put your committee reports on paper, but have strategic conversations so people feel as though they're part of the organization and not just rehashing what happened in the committee last week or the last month. Have those strategic conversations. And all committees, all boards, my suggestion, should have a governance committee. And governance committee is not a nominating committee. It does nominations, but a governance committee is responsible for how the board works. Are the members being engaged? They assess the board. How are we working together? That's the governance committee. So I truly encourage boards to get that type of committee. Nominating only happens like once a year. but it's more than that when it comes to bringing in board members and keeping them engaged and satisfied and with the experience that they're having. And so these are some tips I have about boards. I applaud individuals that serve on boards and giving your time and your resources. You are critical. And I would say as a CEO of nonprofits, you are strongly critical. I mean, I don't know what I would have done through this COVID experience without the board that I have, truly. So think of your role as very, very important. Thank you. And any questions you have, I'll be hanging around.
Thank you so much, Myra. Great insight. Just as you were speaking, it made me think about some of my work in fundraising and how you're looking at who's interested in our organization. What can I ask of them? What resources may they have available? And that same approach could be taken to board members, right? And thinking about the time and talent that they have available. Are they interested in our organization? So we often look at what people can give financially, but totally forget the human resource that they have to offer and the human capital that could really keep your organization afloat, as Myra mentioned during COVID. Sometimes it wasn't the money that we needed during COVID, but we needed people, we needed time. And another thing you said that I really liked was making sure you have your the people you serve as a part of your board. That is representation. It's not just about education, it's about lived experience. And sometimes lived experience is just as valuable as someone's MBA. We need both. We need both of them at the table to really have an impact. So thank you so much for all of the insights shared. That was great. And I'm glad you'll be sticking around to share some more and answer questions before we wrap up tonight.
Hey, Kristen, can I add a small point to what you just said? Increasingly, funders and including us are asking questions in our grant applications about the diversity of the board members across different dimensions. So whether it includes end users on the board, like I said, across dimensions. And so if you don't feel an ethical drive or sort of an intrinsic motivation to do it, know that funders are asking for it and monitoring it.
Yes. Thank you for that. Absolutely. Yeah.
Great call out. Thank you for sharing that. All right. Well, the moment we've been waiting for, we have a moment, an opportunity to celebrate a great board member here in the Richmond area doing wonderful work. This year's awardee for our 2022 Servant Leader Award is an active community leader in Richmond, Virginia, having served or currently serving on a number of boards in the area, including Friends Association for Children, Leadership Metro Richmond, the Boys and Girls Club of Metro Richmond, Virginia Council on Economic Education, the Virginia Cannabis Control Authority, and the Jenkins Foundation. Not only does she serve actively in the community, she's the co-founder of the Jackson Ward Collective, JWC. JWC is a hub that connects Black business owners of all stages to connect to one another with partners, service providers, programs, and financial resources to grow their business. She is also founder of Keeling Superwoman, a company that utilizes personal financial coaching to help other women forge paths of financial freedom. Please help me congratulate Rashida Cretin as our 2022 Servant Leader Award winner. Virtual claps are appreciated. And is Rashida on the line?
I am sitting here in complete shock.
Yes, I wish we would have had you. Like, it's me, I really won.
And Rashida, I knew nothing about this. I'm going to go ahead and lay it out right now.
I would definitely have said Myra. Oh my goodness, thank you so much. I am completely shocked. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I want to read a little bit of Rashida's official background to just show the fullness of her work. So An experienced corporate executive turned entrepreneur, Rashida Creighton has always taken the road less traveled. During her 15-year corporate career at a Fortune 100 company, she leveraged her law degree to move from negotiating technology contracts to overseeing significant business relationships with large corporations and small businesses alike. During that time, Rashida developed a strong business acumen for solving complex problems using innovative solutions. In 2018, Rashida used her experience to help design, develop, launch, and ultimately oversee the 1717 Innovation Center, a first of its kind community space in Richmond, Virginia, designed to support community organizations and entrepreneurs in the Richmond area. Even before she was doing this work, she was already adding since 2018. I think that is so impressive. But through this work, she learned and honed her expertise in understanding the impact space design can have on operations and further developed a passion for using her skills to support community-focused organizations and entrepreneurs. Rashida is co-founder of the Jackson Word Collective, a hub that collects Black businesses of all stages, as well as the founder of Killing Superwoman, a company that utilizes personal financial coaching to help other women forge paths of financial freedoms, which Rashida defines as the game-changing ability to make decisions, large and small, based on values, interests, and priorities, not on the need to pay bills. I love that. I'm going to share that quote again. Rashida defines financial freedom as the game-changing ability to make decisions, large and small, based on values, interests, and priorities, not on the need to pay bills. I love that. Rashida earned her bachelor's degree in English from Spelman College and holds a Juris Doctorate from the University of Michigan Law School. She is an active community leader, and we stated all of her community involvement. And of the many hats Rashida wears, her favorite is being mom to Zoe and bonus mom to Akila and Savon. So not only is she an amazing servant leader, but she is also a boss mom. Wow, I am impressed. What a wonderful nomination. Thank you so much, Rashida, for your contribution to our communities, both across the sector. So from our small businesses to the nonprofits, and even bringing your passion to impact corporate initiatives. I think that is just so wonderful. Congratulations. Anything you want to share before we move on?
Apparently, a bunch of people knew about this. My parents are texting me. So no, thank you. I am honestly completely shocked, and I am deeply grateful. My family has imparted the importance of service to me. It is one of my favorite quotes from Marian Wright Edelman, Dr. Marian Wright Edelman. Service to others is the rent we pay for living. It is the very purpose of life and not just something we do in our spare time. So I am honored to be of service to the community that raised me, and I am deeply honored for this award. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rashida.
Thank you, Rashida.
We will be receiving a plaque. Zerica's showing it now.
Yes.
Screen. But we have a special plaque for you.
Yes.
Go ahead, Zerica.
I'll read it. It's the 2022 Board Servant Leader Award presented to Rashida Creighton in recognition of your service and commitment to volunteerism, the Metropolitan Business League, Leadership Metro Richmond, and thrivent. And so we will be contacting you so we can meet you in person to give you your award. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Likewise, Rashida, thrivent will be making a donation to the organization of your church, of your choice, on your behalf. Typically, we just do it for the organization whose board they're on. But when you are a part of a lot of boards and you serve in a lot of spaces, we have to leave that decision to you, and we're going to talk about it offline, so there's no pressure. But we thank you, and this is just a small token of just our appreciation for the work that you're doing in the community. So thank you for that. And I think Rashida's a great example of what using your talents looks like, and just all of the resources you have to really serve our communities. And that's what we really wanted to highlight today. So thank you all for joining us this afternoon or this evening. And I want to open it up for some of the questions that were asked earlier. So it is 7 o'clock. In the interest of your time, we thank you for joining us, and we hope you join us again for another MBL event. But we are going to allow an extra 15 minutes to really do that networking and the question asking that we would do if we were in person, you know, when you're walking out and it's like, I'm leaving, but I was leaving 10 minutes ago and I'm still here. We're going to do that in this last 15 minutes in this virtual space. And I encourage you to ask your questions, unmute, and we'll share a little bit. We'll pick the brains of Scott and Myra. But to jump us off, I will read one of the questions. I believe this was from Pam Mines. Do you think it is good to have potential board members to have volunteered for a certain amount of time before being considered to make sure they believe in an organization's mission and philosophy?
Those committees and volunteer activities is a great feeder into your board to bring in people, but I don't think it's a requirement. It's a good thing if someone understands your organization because they've had their hands in it, but I don't think it's not necessarily required.
Any other insight? How do you ensure, I'll ask the follow-up, how do you ensure that individuals are committed to your mission without having that level of engagement prior? Because we know people being on the board looks good. So how do we make sure that people aren't just doing it to fill their resumes, but that they really have a heart and commitment to the work of your organization?
I think it's the pre-meetings that you have with people when you sit down and ask those questions. Why are you interested? Why do you want to serve on the board? Because yes, there are different motives why people want to do this. Some people have a passion for the issue, but some people are trying to bounce up their resume and also want to give to their communities. So I think it's your recruitment process and how you really look at and how you have those conversations and have those questions for individuals that you're looking at. It's just like a job. When you hire somebody, you don't know how committed they are to the job, to your organization until you get them. I mean, but the key questions to your interviews is which kind of pieces out where they are and where they're coming from.
Thank you for sharing that. Scott, did you want to add anything to that? Any insight from your end?
No, not really. I mean, I'm happy to defer to Myra's expertise here. The only thing I was thinking is, as she was sharing that expertise was, you know, creating a culture of sort of mutual discernment between the board and its recruitment of members, but also encouraging the prospective members to really be serious about or clear in their own minds about why it is they want to engage with an organization in that particular way. I mean, because there are other ways of engaging with an organization that aren't necessarily board service. And so to leave space in the conversation with the prospect about that possibility as well.
I think that's a wonderful call out. I've had experiences where I'm like, I can't commit to being on the board, but I would love to commit to being a regular volunteer. I would love to commit maybe an hour a month or a week versus an hour every week, you know, all the time. So just really understanding what people are capable of is important.
One thing I do want to add that I have served on the board and I got off the board because it wasn't going in the direction that I thought it was going to go into. It wasn't, number one, there was a surprise financial commitment. And so sometimes if it's not working for you, sometimes it's just time to move on. And not to stay there and just, in other words, saying stay there and suffer. So.
Since you said that, you don't want to stay there and suffer. Any insight on transitioning a bad board member? So when you have someone on your board and it's causing you to suffer, how do you kick them out? But and I want to add, what happens when they're a great supporter? So they're providing this awesome financial support, but on the board, they're a thorn.
I think that's your leadership. I think your leadership has to take care of that. Now, if you have policies like this person not showing up to meetings, you should have an attendance policy for your board. So you have policies for things like that. But if you have someone who's being disruptive, number one, I think that's an executive committee, and I think that's your leadership to have that conversation going forward. But also, let me say this, sometimes you may think this person's disruptive, but that person is not going along with you. I mean, it's kind of like, you really got to look at yourself too, before you really jump on somebody else's train.
I think
that's what I can say.
That's a great call out, to really reflect on what is bothering you or the group about that person. Is that good pushback, or is that something that
Right, or is it a bias? Or is it a bias? Or that
Right,
person's
right.
not just like you, and that's okay. I mean, it's like it's a lot that goes into that.
Kristen, this is Floyd. I have a question to the illustrious panel. Can you all stress the importance of a strategic plan and how important it is for our nonprofits to have a roadmap to success?
Absolutely. I mean, you said it exactly. I think it's crucial. I think it should animate from A to Z the daily lives of the organization, but also board meetings. It should be the guiding document in ways large and small for an organization. For practical reasons, it's one of the things that we ask for in our grant application is a copy of that latest strategic plan. To be honest with everybody, as a way of sort of measuring the seriousness of the organization. That's kind of a practical reason for it, but I think more importantly than that, it really should be the guiding document for things large and small in the organization.
And I agree, your strategic plan really defines your purpose. Why do you exist? And then your vision, how do you see the future? It's almost like that big, hairy, audacious goal, but also kind of gives you those values, those things you believe in. And so there's consistency that the whole organization has those common beliefs, along also with the strategies and objectives you need. For me, it's an alignment. Everything that we do should be aligned with our mission, our values. And so that keeps you from, going out and, people try to pull you out and do other things that are not aligned with where you want to go. You just pull back your strategic plan and says, this is where we're supposed to be going. And Scott is exactly right. How do you know where you're going? You don't have a roadmap. And how do you know where you're going?
Thank you, guys. And so for all the nonprofits that do not have a strategic plan, if you reach out to us, we are committed to help you with that strategic plan.
That is great.
And, the MBL, we were able to get that done in kind by Altria. And so you don't always have to pay someone to do that for you. So if you don't have a strategic plan, reach out to us and we're happy to help you with that.
That's beautiful.
Wonderful. And
It is a beautiful thing.
When applying for business loans, is the strategic plan necessary for that as well?
Was that to me?
Yeah.
This is Mark. I would say absolutely. Of course, from a financial standpoint, it's important for us and the organization to know where it stands financially. Kind of getting back to that question about the strategic plan, there's one saying is, if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. For the organization, it's the guide, and it allows we can speak deliberately about who they are and why they're in business. And again, you can hear an organization in its strengths around how much it knows about itself, its industry, and why it's in the business that it's in. And really, to be frank, I mean, for some organizations, knowing your strategic plan after a while might basically beg the question, are you in the right business? Are you product, etc.? And then is it efficient? And is it cost prohibitive? And you can save yourself a lot of money and time, and the people who are investing in you money and time in terms of why you're in what you're in and why you're doing what you're doing.
Great point.
Mark, I have a question for you.
Absolutely.
One panelist to the next. In the past, and I know thank you so much for your support of LMR. You had in your grant process, you had to wait 3 years after the first grant that you received. But also that's one part of the question. But the other part is that I think in your area, you also supported leadership. Are you still doing that? Both of those things.
What's interesting that you mentioned this. So there is a stewardship period now where if you do receive funding, and this is started in 2020 last year, you have to wait 3 years to come back in. That's kind of two-pronged. One, from a stewardship standpoint, so you can kind of those, other people have skin in the game as well. You can grow the program and then come back to the table showing outcomes, etc. The other piece, I think, is probably one of the primary pieces to say there are so many good and worthy causes out there, and typically, a lot of times foundations don't have an opportunity to invest in them because they're funding the same organizations on an annual basis, kind of almost like the United Way. And so this gives us an opportunity to provide seed funding into other organizations that are doing some great seed funding, that are doing some great things as well. The other question you asked about leadership, because of the focus area shifting to kind of economic mobility and small business, there is a piece in there that speaks to what I call thriving communities. And in that, leadership, education, the primary focus of that, outside of that, is impact to low to moderate income communities and individuals. That's kind of the foundation of that. But if there's something around leadership to those communities, education to those communities, that's a conversation. And kind of lastly, to access that money, you have to be invited to apply.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We have a similar question in the chat. When nonprofits apply for grants through the Community Foundation and other entities and are not successful, is it a good practice to later ask what, if anything, they could do to improve future chances of funding?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think to not, one, to keep your name out there and in the conversation, so if there's opportunities to apply again, you have that opportunity too. But at the same point in time, to learn about what is kind of on the burner for that particular community foundation or funder, so you can then come back again and make sure you strategically make yourself known. And this is another carrot I want to throw out there. Just because you don't get funding, that doesn't mean you stop connecting with that organization and telling your story to that organization to keep them abreast of how you're filling a gap in the community and the type of outcomes you're deriving, even though you didn't get funding from that organization.
Scott, did you have anything to add? That was good.
No, 100%. I don't have anything to add. Mark nailed it.
Well, thank you, Mark, for your insight. All right, we have one last question before we actually two. I'm gonna squeeze them in because they're quick. So my first question: recommended board terms. What are recommended board terms? How long do you suggest is their best practice, or is this something they should follow up with you to speak regarding their specific organization.
I can speak to that. I'll just throw this out here. So anywhere in total from overall as a member of the board, and even within that being a member of the board, assignments for chairship and committees and things of that nature within the board, I say a total of 8 to 10 years as a whole on a board, which means if you're a chair of the board, a committee or something in that, because after that, I think you should transition off so you can fill the board with some fresh insight and things of that nature. I'm seeing a lot more organizations kind of make sure that they integrate those term limits into their board policies.
Thank you, Mark. And then the last question, and I know we chatted about this a bit, but should there be a minimum board gift annually?
I don't think so. I think that a board member needs to give, but I think give based on your comfort. I'm just wondering, that's just a personal thing. I'm hesitant to ask people about, I don't want to get in people's wallets. It's like, what can you give? You don't know people's circumstances, but all board members should give. Absolutely, no matter what it is.
Yeah.
How can you ask for money from others if you don't give yourself?
Yep, I agree. I am seeing boards though, kind of implement these. Hey, everybody needs to give either $500, $1,000. There are individuals with corporations match funding. So if they say 500, you give 250, and then ask your matching gifts program to fund the other 250 or what have you. I would also like to see a mix in there which says, okay, yeah, you give what you can give at a personal level, but you can also integrate if your company gives, 5,000, I think that also should be taken into consideration as well, because just because you're on a board, that does not mean automatically the organization that you represent is going to get funding. So if you can get funding from them, I think that should also be a consideration as a part of the funding that you're bringing to the table.
I think the other thing about board members, other than the money they take out their pockets, they also can open doors to other financial sources, to other businesses, to other people. There's so much in stewardship. It's so much more than just giving a check. They could do such great things when it comes to a good development plan that engaged the board in the work.
I had a professor in grad school. They said, give, get, or get off. And we're not suggesting that, but understand that getting is an option. And there are resources to help you learn how to get. But I will also say, when we're speaking to board diversity, we don't want funds to be something that deters people.
That's
so
correct.
If you have, even with the give or get, if you have a network of individuals who are also low income, getting is not going to be easy.
That's
so
right.
I think I would like to see give or get or get off, but it doesn't have to be just your treasures. That's your talent. That is your time. So what are you giving? That could be the equivalent of the impact that we need. And if you want diversity in your board, you're going to have it's going to require diversity in your board requirements. So just wanted to add that piece. It is 7:20. We're still getting questions in, but you do have Myra and Scott, Antonio, and Mark's information in the chat. And maybe, Derica, if you could maybe send that out to the attendees just in case it got lost there, or if you want to reach out to MBL for that information, I would encourage you to do so. thrivent has some resources that we're excited to share in partnership with MBL. we are a financial services company, and what makes us unique is that instead of paying federal taxes, our money goes back into the community, and I have the opportunity of really guiding those efforts here in Virginia. And last year, we partnered with MBL for Giving Tuesday, where we had some of MBL's Giving Tuesday partners participate in our fundraising giving challenge. And we got some feedback from Pam Mines, and she's like, well, maybe you should try a different day. Maybe you should do something else. So we're not competing with other giving initiatives. And what other giving time than Black Philanthropy Month? So for Black Philanthropy Month, Thrivent and MBL are partnering to support Black-led, Black-serving nonprofits, and we want you to be a part. We want you to put on your philanthropist hat and be a part of really supporting our organization. So stay tuned. In June, we will have more information for how our nonprofits can participate. We're having a matching grant of up to $15,000 for funds that are raised. So I'm really excited about this. And it's nice to see how our partnership is just growing. So this is something, just save the date. Make sure you're looking out for Black Philanthropy Month and staying tuned for additional resources from Thrivent and MBL as to how we're partnering to support their nonprofit organizations. So yeah, my name's Kristen Thorpe. I'm with Thrivent. I'm here in the Newport News, Richmond area, and I'm excited to work with your organizations, work with you. We're a full range of financial resources, but I think what I really would like to promote is our financial literacy that we provide free of charge. So please reach out if you'd like in-person or virtual workshops, because I would love to get out of my house. So I would love to come and visit and do some workshops with your folks, whether that is your staff or the individuals you serve. We have everything from parent, kids, and money matters to your legacy and work around endowments to serve your boards. Our whole thing is about how can we help people live generously. So I want to work with you to get your stakeholders living generously and giving them the tools to really go out and serve their community and use their talents, time, and treasure to make the impact. So please be sure to reach out to me as well. I'm putting my contact information in the chat. This was fun. It's always great to get together with other nonprofit professionals and then people doing the work on the ground. So although we were virtual, our MBL Black Philanthropy Month activity will be in person. We'll have some sort of communing where we'll be able to break bread, maybe do a cheers or something. So without further ado, I will pass it to Floyd to close us out.
Yeah, Kristen, you are just an incredible MC. You know that, don't you?
I'm a church kid, you know.
I want to thank you for your hard work with this project. It was incredible today. We had over 35 folks to join us. That is incredible. So we want to thank Thrivent for being our host and our corporate sponsor for this event. I also want to thank our speakers, Scott with the Community Foundation, Meyer with LMR, Antonio Miller with People's Federal Credit Union, and of course, Mr. Mark Johnson with Truist Bank. You know, the MBL is a nonprofit organization, so we applaud you guys for your commitment to the community. I know it's hard. Trust me, I know it's hard. You know, 5 years ago, I had a goal of putting this organization to an operational budget of over $1 million. And so I'm excited that we have worked hard to be able to do this. And so we want to share some of the secrets that we've been able to do over the years to support your nonprofit organization. So on behalf of the Metropolitan Business League, I want to thank each and every one of you for participating tonight. I mean, this was incredible. Just some great knowledge, right? Give everybody a big round of applause. Take yourself off mute and clap it up for all of our speakers. And there are so many opportunities. So reach out to us if you have questions. Derica, excellent job with facilitating everything. And again, good night, you guys.
Thank you, Derica.
You're
you,
welcome.
Thanks,
And you
Derica.
all, You're welcome. We'll probably have this on our YouTube page. And so when it's ready to share, I'll send everyone the link to the YouTube page so you can see the recording and share it with your board members. Thank you. Everybody have a good evening.
All
Thank
right.
you as well.
Bye-bye.
Bye.